Camera A on, camera B, testing 1, 2. All right, I guess we're good to roll. What's up, guys? Welcome to JS Bladecraft. My name is Joe. Welcome to another katana review. Now, I have a piece that I've never had on my channel before. There's certain aspects of this katana that I've never seen, that I never had in my hands before. All right, guys, this is a katana sent to me for a look over review. The sword itself is one of their standard style katanas, you know, tight Ito wrap and all that. Specifically, this sword is completely blacked out. And when I mean by completely blacked out, I mean completely blacked out, which you'll see as I'm going on with the review. I'll get to the blade and I'll get to all that, but it's a standard 27-inch blade. I believe it's a through hardened SX105V Japanese tool steel. So it's got a nice bend radius, through hardened blade, the whole 9 yards. No Hamon line because it's not differentially hardened, obviously. Tight Ito wrap, you know, pretty tight fittings for the most part. A pretty much fair fit and finish. Now I have many things that I like about this sword, and many things that kind of just irk me about a lot of their swords, which it's my job to kind of bring that out and tell you, but nothing that's a kind of a make or break with this sword that I would say it's not really, you know, good for purchase or anything like that. It's a very good sword. They make really good swords, well balanced, not really light and nimble for the most part, but well balanced, really good steel, good heat tempering, and you know, they check all the boxes enough to say that you know you're getting a pretty good quality sword. So that's this package here with the sword. The one thing that is very specific about the package of this sword is what else it came with. Other than this saya, it came with something else. All right, so this guy, this is a Kydex sheet. So I knew it was coming. Everything is going tactical. You know, you got tactical knives and tactical sheets, and you know, we love our Kydex. Kydex is very convenient, great to click it in and out, and great to be able to use, you know, on the field. And it's just, you know, I don't have to educate anybody about Kydex. Kydex kind of is making its way to a katana. Now, the way they designed this, I'm not going to get into the specifics of what I really hate about this Kydex sheet, because that's something I'm going to do internally with the company, because this is a prototype. It's the first run on making a Kydex sheet for a katana, so I'm not going to knock them too hard on it. They send these out for, you know, to reviewers like me to kind of check out, give our feedback, to let you know what could have been done better so they can get new renditions out and perfect it. I mean, that's the way prototypes work. That's how first runs work. You know, you send them out, see what we like or don't like about them, and then they go back and kind of improve it and come up with something that's, you know, very useful. But the way they kind of made this, guys, so you got this strap over here, which is, it's just a standard nylon strap. Put it on your back, and it's just kind of, you know, it's dangling everywhere. So it's not, the sword is really not in place. So if you have the sword with the weight of the sword, it's kind of going to do like one of these, you know. So it's not, you know, and actually if you really want to hold it the right way, you would do one of these. And that's even worse, because it's just, the sword is going to constantly always, so you're finding yourself always kind of pulling this down. You could tighten this up a little bit, but then it's uncomfortable. So definitely a different type of, you know, harness strap, but I'll get into that with them. The Kydex sheet itself, though, guys, is actually pretty damn good. It's got some nice details on it. It's pretty solid. It's a very nice piece of Kydex. It's shaped to the sword really well. It stays very secure, probably over secure, the sword in here, and it doesn't bend. It's a really nice job on the Kydex itself. Even basically the locking mechanism to hold the latches is actually pretty good quality, other than the strap system here, which really doesn't really keep it in place, and it can't be really held on your back. And I'll get into that with them, but definitely got to bring this back to the drawing board. But the Kydex sheet itself, very, very well done. I like how this is. I like how the sword fits in here. This is pretty cool. The locking mechanism on this, as far as locking this thing over the Suba, it's literally impossible to kind of like thumb push this the way you would want to get a sword out, which is basically thumb push like you do with the saya. It locks onto the Suba to the point where you need two hands to kind of unlatch it and pull it out, and at that point you feel like you're going to cut your arm off. So it's definitely something they got to go back and revisit. But definitely kudos to Cloudhammer for trying to innovate and coming out with something new, you know, giving you the over the back style type of thing. I'm not going to say that much more on it. The only thing I'm going to say is, Cloudhammer, hope you guys perfect this pretty soon so we can, you know, join together, wear them on our backs before the zombie apocalypse, so we could almost shown it up and be ready for whatever comes, you know, being able to, like, you know, sheath the sword from your back and, you know, Walking Dead style. So hopefully they improve this before we have a zombie apocalypse. Let's talk about the sword itself. Now, before I go into the details of the sword, I have to just tell you, there's absolutely no, and here's my microphone, no blade rattle. This is a nice fit. Probably one of the nicest fits I've seen from Cloudhammer in terms of their blade into the saya, or the habaki fit into the koiguchi mount and all that stuff. No movement. And it's also great where it's just kind of really a simple thumb push, locks into place with no friction. Usually, like, you get like the habaki's kind of hitting onto the koiguchi. This really slides into place very nicely. I like how they did this. Koiguchis are a really nice cutout. It's not too bad, and it kind of really just it just goes into place really well. Locks into place. The tension fit is perfect where it doesn't, you know, come out, and but it's very easy to kind of pull out, deploy the sword, okay, return it, and it's ready to go, and there's really no problem. So I like how they kind of, the fit and finish of this, of how the blade fits into the saya, no blade rattle, koiguchi mount is good, and habaki fits really well. So that's kudos to Cloudhammer for improving that on this particular model. Okay, starting from the top, we have the kashira, or the pommel, okay? This has been an issue with that I've been explaining to Cloudhammer for a little while, as far as the ledges here. It doesn't line up, you know, with the ito, which traditionally that's what it should be, you know, and also, you know, my gripe about the wood core showing, so that's it there. Other than that, the ito itself, the diamonds are fairly even, very tight. Okay, they always tie up their knots really tight. It's probably about 2 millimeters I can move it, which is very, probably more than acceptable, you know, compared to like this, you know, most of the market in terms of how they tighten up their ito wraps. So the tsukamaki is always done very well. Other than the wood core showing, it doesn't hinder the rest of the knots, and everything stays very tight. Diamonds even. Samegawa underneath, pretty good quality. They don't jump out. They give you some pretty good samegawa. All blacked out with that jacket leather, that signature jacket leather type of ito wrap that Cloudhammer gives you, that I've loved since the first time I've gotten to put my hands on it. They attempt some kind of a Rico shape, but not quite, but it's still pretty, you know, comfortable in the hand. I would prefer a little bit of a thinner, you know, kind of like a more of a Rico shape that really fits your hand very well. They give you the manuki here. It's like a black feathered manuki, all blacked out, and it's on the palm side, which is pretty much where you want it to be, so that's pretty cool, and it's in the right place as well. The one manuki peg, okay, which I prefer. That's how traditionally Japanese swords you see mostly with the one mukugi peg. So that's pretty good. Also the knot up here, the ending knot by the kashira is pretty good. So everything is good thus far for the most part. Then you have the fuchi, and again you have ledges here where if you know, with continued use, it's gonna kind of bite into your hand, but not to the point where it's going to be terribly uncomfortable, but you know it's kind of there because it's your hands are kind of going to be rubbing against it, and with extended use as a practitioner, that might make you a little uncomfortable. So that's why we always prefer to have the fuchi without these ledges here, which you can hear it with my fingernail here. You can hear the ledge, you can see the ledge that goes over the ito. I would prefer, if anything, to maybe have the ito go over the fuchi. But again, these are just, you know, normal gripes I have with a lot of their swords. The tsuba itself is nice, guys. I like the tsuba. I really do. The tsuba is, I don't like over embellishments. This is a nice little, like, wheelhouse or a wheel design, you know, no sharp edges, nothing that's kind of biting into the skin. It's pretty smooth for the most part. I mean, if you rub against this a lot, you'll probably have some abrasion, you know, some discomfort in your skin, but you're not really supposed to choke up on it. But if you occasionally touch upon the Tsuba, there's absolutely no problem. It's pretty smooth, and I like the look of this particular Tsuba. I like the styling of it. I like the details of it. Plain, simple, and done well. That's basically what I prefer in the finishing pieces, as well as the finishing pieces of the Fuchi and the Kashira with this like basket weave type of look. The details are pretty good on it. I like it. It's nice. Again, all blacked out, sticking to that whole theme. Now, before we get into the blade, which is the main highlight of the sword, other than the Kydex sheet, the saya is a painted black saya with like silver speckles. I like the look of this. I've always liked the look of this type of saya. The varnish is pretty smooth for the most part. There is, you know, upon receiving this, there was a little bit marring on the, you can see it right over here by my thumb. I'll try to get a little closer. You can see a little bit marring in the paint. Maybe it didn't dry well, but there's like some indentations in the varnish. Other than that, the rest of it is pretty smooth lines. I like the speckle paint. I like the look of this. Overall, I like the look of the sword being all blacked out, and also with the silver speckles on the saya. Pretty smooth. Again, tight fit. I just love the overall look of this whole blacked out sword. Now, this sword doesn't have a name. You could call it, I don't know, the Dark Knight. You could call it the Dark Crow. You know, you guys pick a name for it, see what sticks. But there's not really any names on these swords, other than the fact that it's an all blacked out SX105V, and the main highlight is coming. Again, pop it open, and first off, you're going to see that it's a black blade. Okay, that's the main highlight of the sword, that it's a black blade. Now, it doesn't come through on the photography well, but if you kind of keep it in the light, it looks like it's kind of silver, but when you keep it away from the light, you can see how it's black, okay? But before we get into that, the habaki is a nice black habaki. There's a couple little speckles or gunk on there and stuff, which you could probably wipe off. But for the most part, it's good. Again, spaces in the habaki with the blade. That's, again, been my complaint with Cloud Hammer, to kind of smooth this out and make this a little bit fit better. But it doesn't fit. For this time around, though, it doesn't hinder the fit of the habaki into the saya, so I have, you know, no complaints about that, other than more just an aesthetic complaint, my own personal aesthetic complaints, that I would like the habaki's done a little bit better. So guys, this is a through hardened blacked out blade, and it almost has like a metallic finish, which is kind of cool, that it looks actually kind of metallic. Now, normally guys, I don't like colored blades. Now, I can't call myself a traditionalist, to the sense where, you know, everything's taboo if it's not, you know, exactly the way it was in ancient times and the way the swordsmiths in Japan make the swords now. I'm not like that, but I do respect the tradition for the most part. For many reasons, I don't like the colored blades. It's not something I look for. I just feel like a katana should have a satin finish or a mirror polish or a matte finish, you know, basically the normal color of the steel. This kind of feels like, to me, like anime. It's more of like an anime style with the color, the black blades or the red blades or the blue blades, and I've never been into that kind of stuff. But the main reason is that when you use this, the paint is going to come out. So as you start cutting with it, if you're going to be cutting harder materials with it, the paint is going to start chipping off, and eventually you're going to probably have to kind of take the paint off for the most part. But given the sword the way it is, all blacked out, I like the look of it. I like the look of a black blade on this sword, because that's the theme of this sword. And I like the paint finish on it. I do really like the paint finish on it. It's really got a nice, like, metallic look. Like I said, I can't stop saying metallic, because that's really the feeling I get when I see this. It's not just a black blade, it's like a shiny metallic black finish, you know, silver in some lights, mirror polish in some lights, but it's pretty cool. It's really handsome looking, and I can deal with this. I can definitely deal with this, but colored blades are not my forte. It's not what I would normally be looking for my own personal collection, but it does really work. It works on this sword. The edge is pretty sharp. I honestly always say that I think that Cloud Hammer can give you a sharper edge, but they might do that just to protect the edge rolling and stuff. But you know, as katana guys, we do like very sharp edges, and they could have done a little bit more work sharpening these edges. I found that any swords that I'm cutting with clad hammer, I feel like I want to put a little bit of a sharper edge on it. It's not to say it's not sharp, but it's got a good edge profile. It always takes a great edge really easily because they do a really good job on the edge profiling of their blades. So I would say it's a Shinogi Zakuri, about 27 inches. You see the Yokote line and all that faintly, but it's done pretty good. And you know, all blacked out for the most part, all nice and blacked out. Now the balance of these swords is pretty much, they're all similar. This is very similar to many of the other swords I've held in my hands from Clad Hammer. Again, they're not light and nimble swords, but they're balanced. They're pretty well balanced. The handles are big enough. I would prefer a little bit, exactly 11 inches. This is always about 10 and a quarter or something, but they're balanced enough where you can kind of get your hands on it and you have good purchase on the handle and you have good control. You have control over the tip. Okay, it's a pretty good balanced sword, not light and nimble, not heavy, just kind of somewhere in the middle, and you can kind of get the sword to where you need to put that point. So balance-wise and performance-wise, this is a pretty good sword, and it's great steel. The SX105 is very good steel that Clad Hammer produces. Being through hardened, it's going to be more forgiving, especially for beginning cutters. Or for myself. So these are always a very forgiving, you know, a forgiving type of blade, being through hardened. So I would definitely recommend this to anyone kind of starting out with the blade. Now price wise, I really don't know the price. I'm thinking it's probably in the $400 range because that SX105V usually comes in that price point. I know the differentially hardens are in the $500 range, so I'm thinking somewhere in the $400 range for this sword. And if you're looking to purchase the Kydex sheath as is, you're probably going to be paying extra for the Kydex sheath. But yeah, you know, the balance is good. Everything is the way, you know, normal Clad Hammer swords are. So yes, painted blade, Kydex sheath. That's what's different about this sword that I haven't seen on my channel before. I've never had a colored blade. I would give this a pass because I think it just fits the overall motif of the sword. I like the look of this actual black blade, and I like the way they kind of approached it. They had said there's a buyer online that's looking to get this sword, so I don't really want to cut with it, even though I want to demonstrate it and just mar up the blade and then having to you know, try to sell it with scratches on the blade. So I'm not going to be doing any cutting with this. And I was really, you know, originally I was going to do the review and also do some cutting, but I figured let me just show you the sword and show you what's the latest and greatest and what Clad Hammer is doing. And that's pretty much what this is. So if you like this, guys, and you like the black colored blade, this metallic style finish, all blacked out, you can definitely request it from them. It's the usual quality that Clad Hammer is giving you with a couple little imperfections that I'm hoping that they kind of improve along the way. But as far as performance wise, all their swords pretty much perform well. They cut well. They feel great in the hands. And this one particularly just has a really nice fit to it, and better than a lot of the swords that I've seen. It slides right in pretty well. The habaki doesn't hit and it fits into place. So yeah, so there you have it, guys. This is the package with the Kydex sheath, or the saya, however you want to kind of play with this thing. You want to try to attempt to get this thing on your back. It's your call. But there's definitely a lot of improving to do on the Kydex sheath for the most part. Dark Knight, Black Crow, whatever you want to call it, Kydex sheath, black finished blade. There you have it, guys. Support for our veterans, guys. Memorial Day is around the corner. I'm going to be doing a video for Memorial Day, but heads up, you know, support for our vets, awareness for our veterans out there in our active military. We appreciate you, we love you, and you always have a place on this channel. So that's it, guys. Peace out, and love to each and every one of you. See you later. Ciao.